Stadium. First pitch at 7:10. The NBA will test its new flopping rule at the Summer League in Las Vegas. The 10-day action for rookies and free agents begins Friday. Players will be on notice to think twice before flopping in an attempt to draw a foul. If a player tries it, the new rule gives the opposing team a free throw attempt and possession of the ball. The player also will get hit with a technical foul. The Lakers and Clippers will have their rookies and free agents in Vegas. Neither team is scheduled to play the San Antonio Spurs and their number one pick, Victor Wembanyama. Wembanyama will be with the Spurs in Vegas. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
Ferrari or Jaguar, switching 4 lanes with the top down, screaming out, money ain't a thing.
Bubble hard in the double law, flashing the rings with the window crack, holla back, money ain't a thing.
Jigga, I don't like it if it don't gleam, in the hell with the price, but the money ain't a thing.
Put it down hard for my dogs that's locked in the bang. When you hit the brakes, new whips, money ain't a thing. Come on.
Y'all wanna floss with us? Come on. All across the board, we burn it up. Drop a little paper, baby, toss it up. Slacking on your pimpin', turn it up. See the money ain't a thing.
Welcome to Wealth Building Wednesdays, where we center Black, women, and BIPOC-owned businesses, highlight opportunities and initiatives for underrepresented entrepreneurs, and center socially innovative enterprises, building generational prosperity, fostering real networking, and recycling Black dollars. It's Wealth Building Wednesdays on KBLA Talk 1580.
You know what? We're going to circle back with D, because what he was talking about is very much a Wealth Building Wednesday kind of vibe. About this tip economy, which is something that's already really just escalating right now, I guess is the best way to say it. But I wanted to point out a Black-owned business that we use, that we were able to work with while we were in South Africa. It's called Camissa Travel, CAMISSA_travel. It's a tour agency. This is Black-owned. Like I said, it's not easy to find those Black-owned businesses. I'll be talking more about this as the days go by, because Chief Mpisi, who we met in Zimbabwe, and some folks we talked to in South Africa really broke it down, but especially Chief Mpisi, because he was talking about how, and I think I played some of it for you, how these prepaid tours, what they do is these European countries, they make prepaid tours. So the tax dollars for that, since it's purchased in the country of origin, all the tax dollars go to the country of origin. So let's say I'm German, because a lot of Germans like to vacation in Zimbabwe. And I go to a German-owned, white-owned travel agency, and I buy a prepaid package for a Zimbabwe vacation. The taxation on that goes to the German government. Then I fly to Germany, and I'm using a German or white-owned airline, and then all of the vendors within that prepaid tour are white-owned, and those Black workers there on the ground in Zimbabwe are getting $10 a day or less, and from what I understand, it can be as low as $5 a day. Some, they're telling them they're interning to become tourism workers, and paying them nothing, right? While they're reaping these big fat profits. And so people can come into and out of a country like South Africa or Zimbabwe with barely benefiting the locals, only whatever tip you might have left. Back to Dee's point, whatever tip you might have left. And so that keeps those people in a begging, hoping, Russian roulette for my light bill cycle, which is not okay. And so I wanted to spotlight Camisa Travel and Kona, the owner. You can go to gocamisa.co.za. They're also on Instagram, Camisa_travel. Camisa has 2 S's. And so if you're thinking of, like, lots of folks like to do tours to South Africa. I don't know, could be for a jazz festival, could be for a safari. Some folks go for hunting trips. But even, whatever the thing is, I want to encourage us to buy black, to use black vendors as many times as we can. That's one of the things we do with African Focus Incorporated. Yes, we flew on KLM Airlines because they gave us by far the best deal, but I doubt we'll be going with them again. Some problematic problems. But anyway, yeah. We usually fly Ethiopian. They move their hub over to Texas. So, we're always trying to bargain and get the best deal for folks that travel with us. But African Focus Incorporated is very, very, very committed to buying black and recycling black dollars. And this is one vendor we found in Cape Town. He's a tour designer and operator, Kona. He can do everything from heritage and cultural tours, which we did with Mandela House and the Apartheid Museum and stuff, to, whatever, zip lining and all the sporty things that folks like to do when they're not doing cultural tours. So I wanted to put Camisa Travel in the KBLA Wealth Building Wednesday spotlight. And I want to continue to do that. Chief and PC really brought home the point. I was telling Miles, he reminds me of a cross between Dick Gregory and, I don't know, Malcolm X, maybe. If they were a chief of a small village in Zimbabwe. Really powerful, the consciousness, the awareness, and the organizing that's going on. And so let's be conscious. And I think what Chief and PC really taught me as far as Wealth Building Wednesday and trying to recycle our dollars when we go as tourists into these locations. And we ourselves had some heartfelt conversations about how to be a tourist and be a constructive influence rather than having a huge destructive impact, going through like bulls in china shops and just having our super fun, all predatory capitalism all the time, Disney vacation wherever we go, without taking into account how am I impacting local folks, the people of color, the women, the black people specifically. Am I a force for good? Is this net positive? And I was calling it, fair trade tourism. That's a term I made up, but I think we need to start thinking about it. Fair trade tourism. And part of fair trade tourism means that we, as black Americans who have more money than most black people in the world, not all, but most, could be more conscious about making sure we recycle our dollars here locally as well as internationally. And so, yeah, and that's not, I'm not hating on anybody else. Y'all do what you do. But if we don't buy black, if we don't recycle black dollars, if we don't stop this mentality that the white man's ice is colder and start to embrace the truth about who we are and what resources we have, then who will? If we don't do it, who will? And the answer to that. It's no one. Dee, this kind of ties into what you were saying, because what we're doing is leaving the black folks on the ground in South Africa and Zimbabwe or wherever we might go for our little fun adventure, Martinique, Jamaica, nothing but crumbs, and those crumbs come in the form of tips.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy that the Germans would retain that value. Anywhere else, What happens when you order online here in the States? The location from which you're ordering, they get the sales tax revenue.
Good point. Well, yeah, and it's not just the Germans. I mean, the Dutch, they all do it. All the European countries, the French, they all do it. Buy prepaid travel. Use our airline. Use our companies. The vast majority of the companies, tour companies in South Africa and in Zimbabwe, are white-owned. We had to really search to find these folks.
I think it's crazy that the magazine New African is a glossy cover, full-color glossy magazine published in, I think, Korea.
Wow, not familiar with that. I'll have to take a look, but it doesn't surprise me. And I'm not hating at all. I think, but there are tons and tons and tons and tons of Asians vacationing in Africa. Chinese, Japanese, Korean, you name it, they're there. They're there. And we know the Chinese have, investments, and they're colonizers along with the U.S. and, Western nations. I guess Russia to a degree. But I'm just talking about regular people going on vacation. They're there.
Yeah. So how do we solve this problem of piecework, like seamstresses in the sweatshop in the garment district, or gold miners, to all of that? How do we solve that problem?
Let's build on that. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
You're listening to K-Drip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Sprinklers in the Rain and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time, because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on.
K-Drip.
Don't miss July 4th savings now at Lowe's. Freshen up your home with buy one, get one 50% off on select interior and exterior paints and exterior stains via Lowe's gift card rebate. And get gardening with savings on Stay Green soil. Right now, buy 3 bags for just $10. Lowe's knows July 4th savings. Lowe's knows home improvement. Offers valid through 7/5. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii, and selection varies by location. While supplies last. More terms and restrictions apply. See Lowe's.com/rebates for details.
She's so smooth. So I'm interrupting my own shower to remind you to treat your skin like the queen she is with Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash, packed with Olay's highest level of vitamin B3 complex. It's so moisturizing that it will give you visibly smoother, head-turning skin in just 14 days. People wondering, how'd she get so smooth? Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash. Also, try Olay Hyaluronic Body Lotion.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Gotta stay fresh, ma. House shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
I'm glad Dee brought that up, because it's something that I've been meaning to address for some time. And if you order DoorDash, like I seriously hardly ever do. Okay, I'm lying. If you order DoorDash or Instacart or any of those app things, and even at restaurants now, they have increased the suggested tip to ridiculous amounts. Their suggested tip is like 30 or 40%, right? So if you don't adjust it down, that means you're paying this huge amount, which, okay, I'm not mad at that if you can afford it. But what it does is it's putting the onus on paying the workers onto you and all of the profits onto the company. They're already charging you fees and taxes and all kinds of mess. I think part of the solution is unions, Dee. I do. I mean, we've got strikes going on all across the country, not the least of which here in Los Angeles, the hotel workers are on strike. Again, we rely on tourism. Again, this is a big deal, right? For me, I can't cross those picket lines. The writers are on strike. The actors I'm in SAG. We made an extension to negotiate a bit longer and extend the contract for a couple weeks of Screen Actors Guild and AFTRA so that those negotiations can continue. Unions are part of it. And I think awareness is part of it. That's why I'm glad you brought it up. Now they're expecting us, they're pressuring us, they're adding on this idea that we should be tipping for all kinds of things that were never tipped on before. And it's because they're underpaying workers. No, the answer isn't for us to start tipping them unless we feel like it. The answer is for you to create a different business model that sustains a living wage for your workers. If your business model requires you to engage in wage slavery, then it's not a sustainable business. You need to find a new model. Either cut some corporate fat. Maybe you don't need so many presidents and vice presidents. Maybe these corporate bosses can take some pay cuts. The gap between CEO pay and the average worker pay continues to widen. Shave a few million off in corporate bonuses and pay the workers. That's the answer. It's not rocket science. And they shouldn't have to gamble like a casino slot machine on whether or not they're going to eat, feed their kids, pay their rent. You want to end houselessness? Let's start with paying people decent wages so they could pay their rent and not forcing them to rely on my mood, your mood, or our ability to tip on any given day. No. So I'm glad you brought that up. And that's something, Dee, that we need to keep talking about because it's a tricky sleight of hand thing that corporations are doing now. It's just like that self-checkout. How many dollars an hour are you getting paid to check yourself out at the grocery store instead of them paying a worker an hourly wage to check you out? I'm thinking it's pretty much zero. And I won't do it. I'll do self-checkout, in an emergency. But even when I do that, I'm calling a worker to help me. Why would I, unless you're going to give me a 20%, 30% discount on my groceries, why would I work for you for free? Even for 15 minutes, even for 5 minutes. That's a no for me. The workers need jobs. The workers need pay. The workers need pay that allows them to live in the cities in which they work, that allows them to live in the places in which they are essential, right? That allows actual diversity to continue in a sustainable way, that allows us to end houselessness because people will have a reliable, steady check, reliable, steady hours. Thank you, Councilmember Price, by the way, in Los Angeles for that measure. So, yeah, so much to talk about. I can't leave you guys alone for 10 minutes. Definitely not 10 days. So while we were flying back from Zimbabwe, we actually had to go back to South Africa to Johannesburg because what I said earlier about how Western nations are still punishing Zimbabwe makes it a little harder to fly directly out of there. So we had to fly back to Johannesburg. From Johannesburg, we fly to Amsterdam because when you fly to Africa, you pretty much have to stop over in Europe, Dubai or Dubai, pretty much. I mean, if I had my own private jet, I could fly directly from New York City to Senegal in 8 hours instead of taking 20 plus hours to get there. But anyway, on the way home, we fly from Zimbabwe to Johannesburg. Then obviously you're going through customs again because South Africa and Zimbabwe are two different countries. And then from Johannesburg to Amsterdam. Well, while we were in Amsterdam, our flight was delayed, but we were there for quite a while. And they have really great, like, smoothie shops. I felt like it was back in LA. They have chaga and, acai bowls. Anyway, while we were exploring the Dutch airport, the news comes across the wire that the Dutch king has apologized for his nation's role in slavery. It's the 150th anniversary, apparently, of the abolition of slavery in his country. This happened as we were flying home, or at least it was reported as we were flying home. And it came after the Dutch Prime Minister, Mark Rutte, apologized last year for the country's role in the slave trade and slavery. This is part of a global wave. And yes, we definitely need to give the Black Lives Matter movement, the Black Lives Matter grassroots movement, credit for pushing the envelope in terms of people understanding systemic racism. Certainly the anti-racist movement, the civil rights movement, the Black Panthers, all of them, all of us. Where people are having to face the music when it comes to their past. Now, to be clear, when you come from South Africa, you have a heightened awareness of the role of the Dutch. And the King Willem-Alexander, did not say anything about their role in apartheid, his country, their continued role in the exploitation of the African continent. Didn't say that. But he did commission a study into the role of the Royal House of Orange-Nassau in slavery in the Netherlands. So that's what he's apologizing for. And I'm happy that he did apologize. I wish we could get a full and complete apology for our enslavement from the United States in every state. But it's a start. There were reports that people were crying and that the king's ancestors, according to this report commissioned by him, got at least $600,000 from slavery, directly, their family, from gifts, from plundering. So, while he said sorry, he's keeping those $600 million. I haven't heard anything about any kind of reparation for descendants of enslaved people in the Netherlands, although I would venture to guess it's coming soon. They say they're going to put up a $200 million initiative to tackle the legacy of slavery. In other words, investing in government programs that supposedly can help to improve education among the general public. Not like affirmative action, not anything like that. So I'm glad, people were in traditional clothing, they were crying. There's a National Museum of Art that broke ground in 2021 that's looking at slavery in the Dutch colonies. But I need us to, continue to push when folks have these moments. And it was so ironic that this happened just as I was flying back from South Africa, and the legacy of apartheid, which is still very much alive and well, and that country was fresh in my mind. It reminded me that an apology is good, but it's not enough, right? A museum is good, but it's not enough. Reparation and restitution. South Africa still needs restitution. They need some of their land and resources back. We still need reparation. An apology is nice. We haven't even gotten there yet. An apology is nice, but it's not enough. If I go and burglarize your house and take everything out of it, then some years later I come back and say, I'm really sorry that I took everything out of your house. Now I'm going to conduct a study to see exactly what I stole from your house. I stole all your stuff. Sorry about that. And then I keep it. Is that justice? I think not. It's true. Denmark has apologized to Ghana, and King Philippe has expressed regrets for what they did in the Congo. Regret for some of the most horrific torture, regime change, and exploitation ever in history, which the Congo is still trying to come out from under. Pope John Paul II apologized for slavery in the church, but show me the money. Reminds me of Rihanna's song. And now Charles III is trying to cover his tracks since the Duke and Duchess of Sussex put them on blast. Now he's talking about looking into the British monarchy's role in slavery. Because a receipt came out. It was a document that showed that one of King Charles III's ancestors had shares in the slave trading company. But that's the diamonds are still in your crowns. What study do you need? But again, these are baby steps, right? And I would like to add apartheid to the list of things that you could apologize for, Your Majesty, but also compensate for, pay back. It's not enough. Senegal's president says he won't run again, which is good news because he's already done 2 4-year terms. Unlike our last president, he is not trying to stretch the Constitution, overturn the election, have a coup. He's stepping down. Macky Sall is his name. It's a big, big sigh of relief for Senegal. Looks like their stable democracy there marches on, which is good stuff. That's great news for a beautiful, beautiful country where I've had the good fortune to spend some time. Israeli forces in the West Bank killing at least 10 people, thousands of people leaving their homes. The Israeli Defense Forces say that they are doing counterterrorism activities, but it's really military invasion in the West Bank, in Jenin, the city of Jenin. And it is one of the biggest military operations that Israel has done in the West Bank in years. And this is it's very, to me, it's the world double standard that Israel can just say, oh, we're going to go in here and invade, and that's counterterrorism. But if somebody else does that, then that's considered an invasion or, an infringement on sovereign rights. If we're going to have a 2-state solution, you got to respect Palestinians in the West Bank as much as you're asking to be respected. Nobody deserves to be demolished, abolished. And then there's affirmative action. What? Well, not just affirmative action. Your extreme court, your U.S. extreme court is on a tear. Not only are they steadily, daily, it seems like we're getting news about the level of insane corruption. But these decisions, affirmative action, stalking, it's what we thought and more. Continuing the conversation after news, traffic, and sports on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to here with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In Maryland,
I feel like we're in a war.
Baltimore police are still looking for 2 suspects following Sunday's deadly mass shooting at a block party.
Why we have guns? Why kids have guns?
Aaliyah Gonzalez's mother, Crystal, says her daughter wants to be remembered as a person full of life.
She was amazing, but she was going to be so big.
The shooting left an 18-year-old woman and 20-year-old man dead and 28 others injured. 15 of the injured are under the age of 18.
She was the best sister I could ever have.
Police are going over social media and surveillance videos in the search for suspects involved in the shooting. And the reward for information in the case is now at $28,000. And that's the latest. I'm Ray Harris on your home for 24/7 news. The Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Need an accident attorney by your side. All you got to do do is call the accident guys.
Injured in a car accident or at work? Call the accident guys to speak with a real expert attorney for a free consultation.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
It was not a happy 4th of July for the Dodgers. Their bullpen gave up 3 runs to Pittsburgh in the 9th inning. The Dodgers end up losing by 2. Pittsburgh and the Dodgers battle again tonight at Dodger Stadium. First pitch at 7:10. The NBA will test its new flopping rule at the Summer League in Las Vegas. The 10-day action for rookies and free agents begins Friday. Players will be on notice to think twice before flopping in an attempt to draw a foul. If a player tries it, the new rule gives the opposing team a free throw attempt and possession of the ball. The player also will get hit with a technical foul. The Lakers and Clippers will have their rookies and free agents in Vegas. Neither team is scheduled to play the San Antonio Spurs and their number 1 pick, Victor Wembanyama. Wembanyama will be with the Spurs in Vegas. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We don't like to do too much explaining.
You got some explaining to do.
We started from the bottom. Now we're here. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your beer.
Follow the leader.
Following the leader.
Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
Delivery's at the door. Can someone please unlock?
It's been an eventful afternoon with a spike in bookings at Claudia's event space.
We'd love to host Mermaid Fest.
She was already planning on having more event planners on hand.
500? That's a lot of tails.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates, and you can schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from the Indeed dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
To my hometown, my community. Some of you have known me my whole life. Do you notice anything different about the kids in the neighborhood? Ever paid attention? We might start with gifts, money, attention. These are signs. Child trafficking is happening right here in this town. So don't just watch through the window. Pay attention. Because the more we know, the more we'll all know to say no. Learn the signs to look for and how to help at no-to-say-no.com.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, so back on my headlines here, the Israeli military says they've taken their troops out of that refugee camp where they have been doing their military incursion. And it turns out it's right now the death toll is at 13 Palestinians. One Israeli soldier also killed. But this is, I guess, the biggest invasion in the West Bank they've done in 20 years. And they're saying, you know, they're warning they'll be back if they feel that there is terrorist activity that they need to quell. It just seems like I said, all hell broke loose on so many levels when I went to Africa, not the least of which our own extreme court. And as I pondered America's birthday on yesterday, what I like to call Frederick Douglass Had a Point Day, or, I was thinking about it. When I was much, much younger, I was commissioned by somebody or other. I can't remember. I think it was city government or somebody to write a rap about the Constitution, and it was for some 4th of July event. And at that time, I wrote about revolution and the American tradition of revolution as something that I'm actually proud of. I mean, I am proud that we kicked out the monarchy, something the Brits still have on their to-do list, right? Abolish the monarchy. They're basically parasitic in that structure. I mean, I'm sure that as I've met kings and queens and in other cultures where it's set up in a different way, that's not just an imperial situation. They have different kinds of roles. But the British monarchy, which was, part of our revolution, we got rid of them. That was a good thing. I think the American tradition of revolution is a good thing. That's one of the things I can celebrate, even though we, as Black people, did not get those rights in 1776, or even following the Civil War, right? So our work is cut out for us. The reason I bring up that rap that I wrote so long ago is because I was saying I was celebrating our proud tradition of revolution, which brought about our Constitution. I think that the U.S. Constitution, although we've had to fix it up and it still could use a few more amendments, it's a good document. If when those rights are truly extended to all men and women, we'd be in good shape if we could have an actual, as they say, a multicultural democracy, a multi-ethnic democracy with the principles of the Constitution, adding a few more things in there, such as term limits for the Supreme Court justices. We'd be in good shape. But if we were to rebrand, reimagine, take over Independence Day, 4th of July, in the spirit of toppling tyrants, we would have to start with the U.S. Supreme Court, because they are like the new monarchy. How do you have a lifetime appointment to a job? If it's not mom or dad, there should be no lifetime, granny or auntie or uncle, there should be no lifetime appointment. That's some monarchy-ish. But we shouldn't be playing that in America. No. Direct representation, right? Direct democracy. Abolishing the doggone electoral college. A few tweaks here and there in our Constitution. How about proportional representation, meaning the number of senators you get is in proportion to the number of people in your state. Those kinds of things, they can be done. But if we talk about the spirit of July 4th, of Independence Day, toppling tyrants should be first on the list. That's where the spirit of the U.S. revolutionary spirit that I celebrate, that I'm pointing out, even though I'm clear we were enslaved. I'm clear. I'm not skipping over that, okay? Don't DM me about that. Well, you can if you want to. I always like to hear from you. But the point is, we need to apply that throwing the tea in the harbor vibe to these U.S. Supreme Court justices. This is ridiculous. They are usurping the will of the people. They have cheated to get a 6-member majority, right? Basically stealing 2 seats. And now they have lifetime appointments, not to mention the corruption. And as the nation's Elie Mystal pointed out, I heard him pointing out on MSNBC, if we don't do something about the extreme court right now, we will not see a progressive or so-called liberal policy enacted and enforced in this country in our lifetimes. And by our lifetimes, I'm including your kids and grandkids. They have a 6-3 majority. And that Amy Phony Barrett, you know, the Neil Gorsuch and Mr. Beer Pong Kavanaugh, they're not old. Like, they can stick around for another 30, 40 years making terrible decisions. And then those terrible decisions could take another 30, 40, 50 years to be overturned. They've already taken away a woman's right to choose. The same people, the very same people, you knew that when they took away affirmative action, they don't want you in their doggone schools. You think they're going to pay off your student loan? That's a hell no. Overturning the president's plan to give you back money for student loans, which is not outrageous because we've been subsidizing education for the wealthy and for the middle class for a long time. It's just that states have backed off on that because they haven't had the funding to do it, which means that those of us who went to state schools received a de facto subsidy. Like, what I mean by that is I went to San Francisco State University, but when I went there, tuition was much lower because that was being underwritten. Part of the cost of that was being underwritten by the state. And many people in our Congress also received that same benefit. That should also be extended to Generation Y and Z. They don't want you in their colleges. They ain't paying off your student loans. They want the poor to stay poor, stay in your lane, barefoot pregnant. Literally everything has been laid out about how they think about women, black people, people of color, LGBTQ plus people in the past year between the Dobbs decision, which took away a woman's right to choose. Now they've taken away affirmative action, which, by the way, benefited women and other groups as much, if not more, than black people. And I can go on a whole tangent about that because we see how affirmative action is not working in South Africa. Even worse than here, where it's benefiting the people that are probably benefiting the least are black people. And I can explain that when we come forward because that's a whole other tangent. And then legalizing discrimination. A company that it turns out never had an order for a gay website. And so actually there was no injury, a made up hypothetical case of what if I had to make a website for gay people turns into now you as a company have a right to discriminate against LGBTQ plus people. And if you think that stops with gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, queer, and others, then you're not paying attention. The Supreme Court has now set a precedent that you can be discriminated against. If I don't want to make a website for you, if I don't want to hire you, if I don't want to let you in my door. In case you are wondering what era Make America Great Again, where the again was going back to, I think we've gone back a good 100 years, maybe 80 years with these decisions. So what do? We've got to expand the Supreme Court. We've got to put term limits on the court. Somebody made a bill, a Democratic lawmakers put forth a bill to put term limits on the Supreme Court, but my understanding is that would require a constitutional amendment. So we should start by expanding the court. That's something Congress could do tomorrow. If we, the people, tell them it's time to topple tyrants in honor of America's birthday. Let's get back to our proud tradition of revolution, which brought about our Constitution, starting with term limits and ethical standards for our corrupt and cravenly right-wing activist political Supreme Court. Yeah, I'm back. KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I'm James Alexander, a proud member of AARP. 1967, I was 17. That spring, my friends, the Barcades, and I made Soulfinger. It was a hit. Number 3 on the charts. That summer, we became the Great Otis Redding's Band. First gig, the famed Apollo. That fall, we toured. That winter found me in a morgue identifying the bodies of my bandmates and Otis Redding. My music and their memories bring me joy. The Barcades, forever.
What would you call a joy that is as solemn as it is sweet and knows no bounds? A joy that's beautifully rooted in soul and resilience. This is Black joy, a joy that reflects pride and honor despite every challenge. AARP believes the power of Black joy is limitless, and we celebrate this joy supreme. Join us in celebrating Black joy at aarp.org/blackcommunity.
Are you looking to steer your career in a new direction? Driving for Culver City Bus can be your ticket to a long-lasting career with excellent benefits and paid training. Culver City Bus is looking for customer service and safety-minded bus operators to join the growing team. Culver City Bus offers on-the-job training starting at $19.10 per hour, uniform allowance, and health benefits. Culver City Bus is a great employer. Let Culver City Bus connect you with an essential service job. If you enjoy driving, seek real opportunities for career advancement, and passionate about making a difference in the community, then you are invited to join the Culver City Bus team. Start your journey today by submitting an application at culvercity.org/jobs. For more info, visit culvercitybus.com or call live customer service operators at 310-253-6500.
Have you heard about Lendistry? Lendistry is a national Black-led small business lender that is headquartered right here in LA. Once you've started your business, Lendistry provides flexible financing options starting at $50,000 to help you access the affordable capital needed to grow. Visit lendistry.com/KBLA to learn more.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DePrima right now.
The judges really do matter. Boring, but so important, as we found out from the U.S. Supreme Court and their far right-wing veering to the justices, the judges in the cases we've seen that I outlined earlier with Dr. Mark Ridley Thomas, that travesty of injustice, and the Black Lives Matter grassroots, right? I bet we vote on our justice. I think that Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson has been amazing. Yes, she's in the minority and most of the time writing for the minority, but she is not being timid. She's not holding her fire. She's doing everything that she can and more. She wrote 78,800 words in the decisions since she's been on the court, which is way more than her next colleague. She is unapologetic, outspoken, and brilliant. And imagine this horrific scenario that we're facing right now without that. So I say thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you for making good on your promise. And thank you, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, for being brilliant, for being ready, for being going through all that you had to go through to get ready, right? This affirmative action argument's been going on and on and on, and I'm glad to see that there's now a lawsuit moving forward to stop legacy admissions, in which people who have, if your mom or your dad or someone in your family went to an elite institution, you get extra consideration. And this lawsuit says that, look, you can't ban affirmative action for black people, for BIPOC people, for women, and still have affirmative action for the rich, which is really what legacy scholarships are. Legacy admissions, usually means your parents are wealthy donors, and that your family has a tradition of going to these schools. These legacy admissions go overwhelmingly, I think it's 73%, if I'm not mistaken, go to white wealthy students that get a leg up, not merit-based. Y'all want to act like black folks can't get in because we're dumb. We don't merit. No, it's because generations of discrimination, not just in testing, admissions, the schools that we go to before, that lead us into the pipeline, wealth, stolen wealth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is coming from students who say this isn't fair. This is affirmative action for the rich. And this is in alignment with the public opinion, which 75% don't think that legacy scholarships should be a thing. Legacy admissions, athletic admissions, it's not going to make the difference. And there was a front page article over the weekend in the LA Times saying that it was a really suspect article. I mean, the fact that front page they decided to say their headline is like, Asian students ain't worried about affirmative action. Very divisive. Let's try to pit Asian and black folks against each other. But for people, not just Asians, whoever who thinks that those colleges are going to find ways to get the black people and other diversity that they need on their campuses and get around this affirmative action ruling, haven't been tracking what's happened in California, where admissions of black students, admissions of indigenous and Latino students have plummeted since Prop 209. Follow the data. Stop making excuses. Follow the data. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the voice of reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here with a quick recap from my time at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. There were speakers Ian Dunlap, Damon John, Lynn Richardson, MC Light, Don Kennedy, to name a few. Take a listen to what Justin Grant, Community Development Lead at Chase's Advancing Black Pathway, let's see what he had to say.
So I'm Justin Grant. I lead community development and national partnerships for JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Pathway strategy. And so we're focused on strengthening the economic foundation of black communities, and we're making targeted investments in programs like the Advancing Black Wealth Tour to help us get our tools and resources out to the community to drive sustained impact over time.
So when it comes to black and brown people, it sounds like Chase is making it their personal responsibility, not only to facilitate these events, but to educate and provide resources. So Mr. Grant, I have to ask, what does wealth building look like for the individual?
It's home ownership, it's having that freedom to be able to start your own business and create jobs in your community, and it's having having that long-term plan towards retirement, having that vision for what you want your life to be, and you have the resources to actually live it.
I'm Aisha Cairo. Thanks for sticking around. That was my recap from Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. First stop was here in LA, and they're taking it national.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
Right. So, we'll be talking more about the Supreme Court when I get some attorneys in here to, weigh in with their expertise. But some of us were at least encouraged by the ruling in favor of the black voters in Alabama, which was a bit surprising coming from this conservative Supreme Court. Now they're going to have to redraw those congressional districts so that black voters have more power. That was still a 5-4 decision. Justice Roberts and Kavanaugh siding with the liberal justices on the court. But again, your boy, Clarence Thomas Crowe, is, I call him that because he's in the pocket of that billionaire, Mr. Crowe, voted against giving black people representative voting power in Alabama. Insane. Well, we thought of that as a victory, but it's a very narrow victory because, what they said is that the states still have a role in the courts still have a role in voting laws and such, but that if they go too far, then perhaps it does get turned over to the legislature. So I think that's what I'd call their first step. And I'd be surprised if they didn't continue to erode our voting rights. Just like Roe versus Wade, they started, well, that wasn't a baby step. That was a huge step, overturning Roe versus Wade, then saying, oh, but it's really up to the states, when we can now see that there is a clear move towards a national ban. Some folks say, well, they're not that bad because they didn't, outlaw mifepristone. Well, it's not that they didn't outlaw it. They just put it on hold while another case works its way through the courts so that that drug that is used to terminate pregnancy as part of a 2-drug regimen is available for now, while a different lawsuit works its way through the court. So I don't know that that's a huge victory. Certainly the student loans is terrible. It's your basic, and this is, it's your basic Republican underlying outlook, which is why I balk so much when people say both parties are the same. This policy, give to the rich and take from the poor. I mean, it's the reverse Robin Hood. Yeah, it's true. Democrats can be corporate and disingenuous and all of those things. But the give to the rich and steal from the poor, that's classic GOP. Time for our daily deep dive next on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In Maryland,
I feel like we're in a war.
Baltimore police are still looking for 2 suspects following Sunday's deadly mass.
She was the best sister I could ever have.
Police are going